Peace and healing, family, and welcome back to another episode of Heal with Angelica Watters podcast, where we discuss all things healing. And if you are new to the channel, welcome. On today's episode, I have an awesome guest joining me today, therapist Ashley Harris, as we will be discussing today's topic, the human brain and cognition, and its relation to neurodiversity and the use of therapy. Ashley, welcome and thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great. Thank you for having me today.
Yes, yes, yes. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm looking forward to this conversation today. Now, before we get started on today's topic, do you mind letting our audience know more about you?
Okay, sure. So, my name is Ashley Harris, and I am a therapist. I'm a licensed professional counselor associate in the state of Texas, and I have studied counseling and psychology for over 10 years. I have over a decade of experience in mental health, um, and I have treated adults and children. I also work as a special education educator. And so I have experience in the school systems in handling different types of neurological disorders, learning disorders, and mental illnesses.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing, Ashley. Wow, thank you for that.
Mhm.
Now, let's get started on today's topic, the human brain and cognition and its relation to neurodiversity and the use of therapy. So, let's get more of a broad explanation to neurodiversity.
Mhm.
Neurodiversity, or ND, refers to variations in the human brain and cognition. For instance, in sociability, learning, attention, mood, and other mental function. The word neurodiversity refers to the diversity of all, but it is often used in the context of autism spectrum disorder, ASD, as well as other neurologic or development conditions, such as ADHD or learning disability. This is
Mhm.
also why therapy is also so beneficial to those who have ND. So
Mhm.
that brings me to my first question for you, Ashley. What is neurodiversity to you?
So, neurodiversity, in my definition, is the variety that of cognitive abilities that exist among the human race. And so, neurodiversity means that we all come here and we have different makeups as far as our brain,
Mm-hmm.
as far as the experiences that we have in life, as far as our learning abilities. The way we experience the world is different from person to person. And that's the meaning of neurodiversity. So anybody can have a different outlook on how they perceive information.
Mm,
We all experience neurodiversity. And so it's not like a certain category of people that are neurodiverse. Like some may suggest, there's the diagnoses like autism,
yes.
ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, dyscalculia. There is Tourette syndrome. Those are some of the more common experiences that we've heard of people with neurodiversity. And
Mm-hmm.
then we refer to others that don't have a proper diagnosis as being neurotypical. However, I personally don't believe that there is any such thing as neurotypical people. Everyone has different experiences and different wiring. And so we all perceive the world differently. We learn differently. And our cognitive abilities are very different. They vary from person to person.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. So, when you were just explaining that, I was thinking at first that maybe it is something that's just categorized for, people with ADHD. But the way that you explained it, basically saying that everyone has their own way of learning, I could
Mhm.
definitely feel and understand that. Now, with with someone, well, with us all, when we have a certain way of learning, how how does it affect another person's way of learning? Like, how does it affect it? Because it seems like you're trying to balance out your way of learning with someone else's way of learning, and it's kind of like a clash.
Exactly.
So what advice would you give for anyone that just deal with someone whose learning ability is different from theirs?
Mm-hmm. And so we see it all the time in the schools,
Mm-hmm.
teachers especially, because you have 20 plus students and they all learn differently. Not
Mm-hmm.
only do the students learn differently, but you as a person, as a teacher, you learn a certain way. And
Mm-hmm.
usually what people tend to do is they teach the way that they learn, and they don't really consider that other people have to learn differently. And so oftentimes we see in the education system where people who don't learn the same way as the general population, they tend to get left behind
Mm-hmm.
because they don't have the ability to receive that one-on-one care that's needed for them to be able to learn according to how their neurological makeup works. Um, as far as adults, this affects adults because after they've gone through the school system, they can either do very well in the school system because they kind of learn how to adjust according to what the masses want them to do,
Mm-hmm.
or they develop anxiety, they develop depression and other things like that because they have had such a struggle in learning throughout their childhood.
Mm.
So you may often see a lot of times where adults don't even try to learn anymore. They just give up on learning, like whatever they know at a certain age, that's it. They don't take anything
Yes.
else. They stop reading. They just stop taking in new information.
Mm-hmm.
And that can trickle over into relationships. It can trickle over into raising children. It can trickle over into maintaining or even getting a career, because a person has never actually dealt with their cognitive abilities
Yeah.
early on.
Oh my gosh. It's funny that you said that because when I say I'm laughing at myself because I've literally like this whole month told myself that I'm gonna make myself read. Like
Mhm.
typically, like when you're younger, it's something that you just want to do, like, or
Right,
it's kind of like fun, honestly. But like when you
right,
get older, it's like I don't feel like learning. I don't feel like I just want to. Everybody want to get it fast and do it fast. That's
right.
why video content is more powerful now than going to go read a blog or
Uh-huh.
just reading a book in general. But what I found out is it's so much value in actually open up a book and actually reading a book, and how much your brain gets more just pumped up and more with
Yes,
your brain grows more just actually taking time out to read. So
yes.
I say that to ask now, what is it that how does childhood trauma play a part in ND when it comes to adults?
So childhood trauma actually plays a role in that it intensifies the symptoms in a negative way. If a
Mm,
person, like let's say for example, if a person has autism or ADHD, they're born that way.
mm-hmm.
That has absolutely nothing to do with trauma. They are born with that makeup. However, trauma can intensify um, the inability to pay attention. It intensifies anxiety. It intensifies all of the things that people struggle with, and instead of being able to maintain a balanced, healthy lifestyle, instead what it does is it causes all kind of other issues. It can lead
Mm-hmm.
to, like I said before, anxiety, depression, but it can also lead to substance abuse and things of that nature. And so the childhood trauma does not actually create the neurodiverse ailments or disorders that people experience. People are born with those.
Okay.
If a person is raised in a healthy household and they're taught skills needed to cope with different things that happen in life, then they usually don't experience as severe of symptoms
Mm-hmm.
as people who have childhood trauma.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
so that's something that people, I'm glad you asked that. People usually get that kind of confused because people think that childhood trauma causes ADHD, childhood
Okay.
trauma causes bipolar disorder, or childhood trauma causes schizophrenia. But that's not how it works. The person already had it, they came here with it. And the childhood trauma actually, made it come out more, per
Oh,
se.
wow. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that. I'm so glad we're talking about that because, okay, you're saying that a person is, we're, a person is actually born that way. Now, because I truly believe that, when the child is in the womb, like in the stages of when the mother is carrying the child, like, so are you saying it's genetic?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. A
Okay.
lot of times, a lot of the disorders that we hear about are absolutely genetic. And if you look through the family line, you can see a mother or a father or an aunt or a grandmother. Everybody has somebody where they can say, "Oh, that's why Uncle so and so would do that," or "That's
Hmm.
why my cousin so and so, got into that situation." They can usually pinpoint someone in the family that experienced something similar, if not to the same degree, something very close to what they have experienced. So the majority of the time, it is definitely genetic. Of course, there's brain injuries that take place,
Hmm.
but that's a whole different category. Neurodiversity is a representation of the people who were born different. They were born with a different cognitive makeup, with a different level of neurological conditions or executive functioning abilities.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like a spectrum, and we're all somewhere along that spectrum. A
Yes.
lot of times you hear about the spectrum when it comes to autism, but I believe that everybody is on the spectrum and we all have different places on the spectrum,
Hmm.
and you have a group of people that, fit the normal part of the spectrum. I
Yes.
don't believe anybody is really normal, but
Yes.
call them normal. And that's only because that's the majority of people at a certain point on the spectrum. And then you have outliers at different points of the spectrum that experience different conditions. And
Hmm.
that's all neurodiversity means. It means that I recognize that you may think differently than me. I recognize that you may experience things differently than me. I recognize that your senses may be heightened more in certain situations, more so than mine. That's all it means. It's
Okay.
recognizing that others don't always think and process information the way that we do.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Thank you for clearing that up. I love that. Thank you. So you have your consultate. Did I say it right?
Uh-huh.
Consultation business.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Consultation business, and you're a therapist.
Yes.
So, I would like to know, like, what are the benefits for one who receives therapy while they're on their healing journey,
Mhm.
with which you say that we all have neurodiversity. What are the
Mhm.
benefits of therapy?
So, some of the benefits of therapy include getting to know oneself better,
Hmm.
getting educated on yourself, and being educated in general on what may be going on within the family or different experiences that the person may have had. One of the so my organization is called the Ash Tree. And in the Ash Tree, we are a counseling and education initiative, and we embrace neurodiversity. And so, what that means is that we educate people on what they are experiencing. So, psychoeducation is a big thing for us. We
Hmm.
want you to understand what you're experiencing. I don't like to label people with things, and the people don't know what the label means. Or if
Exactly.
me and you have a diagnosis, I want to make sure that you understand what that diagnosis means. Do you agree with that diagnosis?
Yes.
You know, if the person does not necessarily know what it means, they may just be taking what another clinician said that they have, or another professional, and it's unfortunately it's very common for people to just accept a diagnosis, accept medications, and say, okay, this is what I have, and they never actually do research on it.
Yes.
They accept it because a professional told them this is
Exactly.
experiencing, and so the ash tree is different in that we want to make sure that you agree with what that definition is. We want to make sure that you know what those symptoms are. You know what the DSM-5 says that this disorder is supposed to look like. Now, is what you have experienced in your life in alignment with what this diagnosis is? Sometimes it's not. When a person really educates themselves on the diagnosis. And another thing that's pretty different with the ash tree is that I support self-diagnoses. So a person does not have to have a diagnosis from another professional in order to meet with me or to get services at the ash tree. You don't have to have a diagnosis at all. You can say, you know what, I think I have symptoms of autism and I want to talk about it. I want to discuss it. That's fine. Self-diagnosis is absolutely okay. And I tell people all the time, you know yourself better than I will ever get to know you.
Okay, yes,
So
exactly.
with that being said, if you have researched and you feel that this particular disorder or disability is what you have experienced, who am I to tell you, oh, no, it's not that? No, that's not my place. You know you. And so my place is to educate you. My place is to support the person. And so that's what we do at the ash tree. We educate and we support through treatment planning. So that's another process that's pretty unique in that a lot of times when people go to counseling, they sit there and they talk and they talk and time goes by. And then a lot of times they're like, well, I went to therapy, but I don't know if it helped. I don't know if it made a difference or, so treatment planning is vital because the person is able to see their progress. I give clients agency over the entire counseling experience. So when you come to me, you get educated, you pick your goals, you pick your objectives, you watch your progress. It's all written. I work with the person, but I don't tell the person what to do. I'm there to support. I'm there to support in the process. So the healing is all up to the person. I don't heal others. I heal myself and I can share my experience.
Yes.
Heal others. I can give you the tools that you need to heal yourself.
Oh my gosh, Ashley, I love that so much. Thank you. Thank you. And if you all are enjoying this episode just as well as I am, please show your support by donating today for more free and powerful content just like this. More info to donate will be listed in today's show notes as well as on the screen below. Now let's get back to today's episode, the human brain and cognition. So, I have a question and I would like to know what happens if a person doesn't have a diagnosis, but feel that something is wrong with them, especially if they don't trust a medical profession. What would you advise them to do?
I advise people to research, educate yourself. The confidence level increases the more educated you are. Your ability to pick a clinician that is more suited for you as a person is better when you educate yourself. So research. We live in the age of Google. We have so much information at our fingertips. There's really no excuse to not research.
Exactly.
I'm not trusting, especially because of the history that people have with the medical professions and psychological professions, with the tests and the different experiments that were performed on certain groups of people. And so for that reason, I absolutely understand why a person would avoid going to a professional. And so if a person wants to avoid going to a professional, research. It doesn't mean you just neglect yourself. You can still help yourself. And I have even developed a workbook that will be available. They're going to go on pre-sale next week. And we're going to start shipping them out. And it's a workbook developed for a person to create their own treatment plan.
That's amazing.
Educate themselves better. And I intentionally made this workbook for people who don't feel safe going to professionals.
Ooh.
So that they can still go through the process, get to know themselves. If they were to complete the process and choose to go to a professional, that's great. But even if they do not choose to go to a professional, they will still benefit from this workbook because they're going to go through all the same processes. The only difference is they won't have that person there to support them.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I can definitely agree. Even with me asking that's also just for myself in general, just because of the things that I've went through, just dealing with medical professions and not being able to get. To me, felt like you guys are not giving me the right answer. Like this is something's wrong, and I don't know, but I'm gonna figure out. So. With me, I personally just went on a soul journey with God and like, hey, you gonna help heal me and we're gonna figure it out. And and honestly, there's nothing wrong with, of course, going to seek therapy and going to seek help because we all need it. But it's more profound when you are able to recognize that you have a problem and then trying to do something about it. So that was my state. I knew something was wrong. And like you said, research. I did so much research to see what things mean, what it is. And I was able to self-correct the things that I was going through. I mean, I'm not going to say, well, like if anxiety is a part of ND, then I would say that as one of the symptoms. But I truly believe that is a great way for somebody to just get to know and love themselves and understand themselves is self-examine yourself, experiment on yourself. Like I talked to you before, everyone else done experiment on us.
Right.
Let's do it. I mean,
do it for yourself.
Do it for yourself.
And that's what the workbook does. It's called an Authentic Life Workbook and Planner. So it's pretty thick because it's a workbook and a planner. But that's what it does. It brings people through a journey where you get to know yourself. You reconnect to your inner child. You get to know who you are as a person. What's your true nature? Who are you really? Because oftentimes people, they have these goals that are not really in alignment with who they are as a person. And so the first part is getting to know yourself. Before any goals are set, before any of that, you need to know who you are. What is your true nature? And then after that, we go through the process of identifying what your needs are. Needs vary from person to person. The reason needs vary is because we are neurodiverse. We think differently, we experience things differently, and for that reason, we have different needs. Your relationship needs are different from my relationship needs. Your health needs are different from my health needs. And so we go through the needs. And then after that, we go through the wants and desires, which are different from the needs. Wants and desires are things that you work on after your needs are met.
Yes.
A lot of times we with social media and everything, we start working on wants and desires, and we don't have the basis that we need, that we get from making sure we have everything that we need. And so we go through that process with the person in the workbook. We touch on the different categories of self-care: physical self-care, psychological self-care, emotional self-care. relational self-care. That's the way we interact with others and socialize with others in relationships. Our professional self-care. And then we included another section, which is called giving self-care.
Ooh.
Because that's a vital part. Who are you as a giver? Do you give too much? Do you not give enough? Because some people don't give enough. We hear a lot about boundaries.
There you go.
Some people's boundaries are way too tight, and you need to loosen up a bit.
Yes.
So there should be balance in that. And so the workbook goes over those different categories, and it breaks down your needs and your wants. And then after you get to know yourself, you get to know what you need, you get to know what you want, then there's a treatment plan process where you set goals, you set objectives, and you check yourself routinely to see if your actions and behaviors are in alignment with your goals and desires.
Oh my God, Ashley, that was so amazing. Thank you so much for that. Hold on 1 second. Excuse me, y'all. I had a cough.
It's allergy.
Yes, it is. It is. Get it to me, y'all. So please excuse me. Please excuse me. But Ashley, I just want to thank you so much for joining me today in discussing this well-needed topic, the human brain and cognition. I would also like to give a special thank you to my amazing audience in Healing Tribe for joining us today. I pray today's episode was informative and valuable to you all. Also, be sure to give us your feedback, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes on your favorite podcast station and on my YouTube channel, Heal with Angelica Watters Podcast, to help get the message out to those in need of healing. Also, if you are suffering from anxiety and depression, my 12-week one-on-one balanced life coaching program is just for you. As I help women of color who suffer from anxiety and depression get them the results to a new you. Book your free 30-minute consultation call with me today. Link is in the description below to schedule. As well as my new release ebook, Hear Yourself, and my Healing Tribe merch. I will also leave info in the description so you all can connect with my amazing guest today, Miss Ashley Harris. Ashley, before we end today's show, do you have any closing remarks for today's audience?
Well, I want people to just keep in mind that we're all different. And that's what neurodiversity means. And so when you see people who you feel are weird, remember somebody thinks you're weird too.
You better know it. I'm okay with being weird. We some weird folks around here.
Some weird folks. Look up the etymology of the word.
Yes, Ashley. I love that. And thank you all again for joining us today. And we now leave you guys as we came. Peace and healing.